بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه بعد. وعن جبير بن مطعم رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يدخل الجنة قاطع، يعني قاطع رحم. متفق عليه. Jubair ibn Mut'im رضي الله عنه narrated that the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم said, the one who cut the ties of kinship will not enter paradise. The hadith originally goes like this: the one who cut the ties will not enter paradise. Then it says to cut ties means cutting the ties of kinship. يعني أصل الحديث لا يدخل الجنة قاطع. الجنة قاطع. Then it was explained by the narrator, which is Sufyan. He explained that Sufyan ibn Uyayna, rahimahullah, who one of the narrator of the hadith, he said, qati', cutting ties. What that means? The ties of kinship. Jubair ibn Mut'im ibn Adi ibn Nawfal ibn Abdi Manaf ibn Qusay. So he goes to the same lineage of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Muhammad, and also been said Abu Adi al-Qurashi. He is one of the cousins of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He came to Medina to talk to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the prisoner of war after the Battle of Badr. He said, I arrived to Medina, you know, the Prophet's cousin, dear to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, فوافقت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو يقرأ بسورة الطور في صلاة المغرب. I came at Maghrib prayer and the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reading Surah al-Tur. He said, and while the Prophet say, وَالطُّورِ وَكِتَابٍ مَسْطُورٍ فِي رَقٍّ مَنْشُورٍ قال فكاد قلبي أن يطير. My heart almost got out of my chest. قال فأخذني كرب عظيم. I was so moved by these verses and by the way the Prophet ﷺ recited Surah Al-Tur in Salat al-Maghrib. And you can see here in Nabi Sallallahu pray the whole Surah in Salat al-Maghrib. And he was so moved by it. He said, I was freezing in my place just listening to what the Prophet ﷺ reciting. They say Jubair ibn Mut'im was exactly like his cousin Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when it comes to certain qualities. He was known to be a very wise person. He inherited this from his father, who used to be the head of Quraysh, okay, Mut'im ibn Adi, and also known for forbearing. كان يشتهر بالحلم. Nothing can get him, nobody can get him angry quickly. You can't just irritate him and he'll lose control. He's so in control of himself, rahimahullah ta'ala. And you all remember, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was put in Shi'b Bani Amr, it's a valley. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was forced, him and every believer, to stay in this valley, surrounded by the mountains. And guess what? They're not allowed for anyone to bring them water, to bring food, to sell to them anything, for them to purchase anything. Sanction. Complete like sanction. To the extent at these days, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they used to have the one date. They will be several people suck the same date. They suck it, don't eat it, so it will last for a couple of days. And one of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum said, I will never forget. La ilaha illallah. And that's the most beloved one to Allah. That's Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. They lived like that. He said, one day I was looking for anything to eat. He said, I was sick and tired from eating the leaves, just the leaf of trees, and the green trunks suck the water out of it. He said, one day I was walking in the night and it was dark, no moon, and I stepped on something soft, And I picked up and I ate it. Until today, I don't know what is it, and I don't want to know what it is. What was? What was it? Just because I'm so hungry. So when things reach that level, Adi Mut'im, his father, couldn't take it anymore. And he's one of the leaders of Quraysh. And he came to Quraysh and he said, that's it. We're not going to allow this for my cousins, for my family, for our neighbors. We're not going to allow that. And he's the one who led Quraysh to tear that, basically, treaty or that, basically the resolution that they wrote, and they hanged it inside the Kaaba. His father used to come in the night, nobody seeing him, in the darkest of the night, bringing food, water to the Prophet ﷺ and his family. Men, women, children, you can imagine that. That's why Nabi ﷺ never forgot that for him. And when he looked at the people of Badr, the prisoners from Mecca, he said, لو كلمني فيهم, if the Mut'im ibn Adi, your father, came and talked to me about them, he said, without anything, I will give it to them for free. I didn't need any ransom. Just because he was a very noble person. Not only in that time, also in Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was stopped from entering Mecca when he was coming back from where? At-Ta'if. The people of Mecca said, Ya Muhammad, you're not allowed to enter Mecca. So he entered Mecca in what? In the protection, under the protection of Mut'im ibn Adi. Hajar al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Until the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam finished his Umrah. He would walk with him, making tawaf, until the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam finished his Umrah and tawaf, without anybody harming him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. يقول جبير بن مطعم كنت أكره ما تصنع قريش لمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. I used to hate how my Quraysh used to treat the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. And I was so worried that they will kill him. And I don't want him to be killed. He loved the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال فلحقت بدير من الديران. I went to a church. I went to what? To a church or a place of worship belonged to the people of the book. It could be Jews, could be Christian. قال, and I asked for the head of that church. And I told him about my worries about Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I said, أخاف أن يقتلوه. I was worried that they will kill that messenger from Allah. Then they said to him, this is what your concern is? He said, yes. He said, did you see Muhammad? He said, yeah, obviously, I know Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, if you see his picture, would you recognize him? I said, absolutely, he's my cousin. He said, then they brought for him a paint. They brought for him what? A paint and an image of a man, and it was covered. قال فأتوني بمصور مغطى. And when they moved the cover, قلت هذا رسول الله, قلت هذا محمد. When I saw the paint, I said, that's Muhammad. And that paint, that's Muhammad. Then they told me, Wallahi la yaqtuluh. Don't worry, they would never kill him. They would never kill him. Those who wants to kill him will be killed. So that's when, this is early days in Mecca. He said, I stayed there with them, then I came back to Mecca. When I came back to Mecca, I want to tell Muhammad ﷺ that, but I found that Rasulullah ﷺ left to where? To Medina. He migrated to Medina. Then, at that moment, the people of Mecca were very bad to me. Then they told him, the people of Mecca, you need to bring all the money that you have, because Jubair ibn Mut'im ibn Adi used to have the money of the orphans. He will take care of the orphans, and he will take their money protected until they grow up old. They said, give us all the money that you have for all the orphans. He said, Wallahi la hatta tafsilu bayna ra'si wa jasadi. You would never get that money until you separate my head from my body. The orphan's money, I will protect it. So how noble he is. المهم, so they said, finally they let him go, and they told him, if you go there, you don't eat from his food, from Muhammad's food. I entered to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you look hungry. Let me bring you some food. So he brought him food. قال لا آكل خبزك. He said, I can't eat your bread because I promised the people of Mecca I will not eat from your food. Then the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, أوفي بعهدك. Keep your promise and you don't need to eat. Then he talked to him about the prisoners, and he said, you can, he talked to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about them. هو كان من الطلقاء الذين حسن إسلامهم. Jubair ibn Mut'im, he did not convert to Islam, subhanAllah, until the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam conquered Mecca. With all this nobility and good character, blah, blah, blah. He did not accept Islam until the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered Mecca. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gathered the people of Mecca and he said, what do you think I will do to you? He said, you are our brother. Then he said, you're all free to go. He's one of those people. From Turaqa'i Mecca. And the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he in Hunayn, and after Hunayn and Ghatafan, you know the story, he gave so many gifts to the new Muslims among Mecca. He gave Jubair ibn Mut'im, 100 camels. 100 camels, like in modern days, and you talk about $1 million. He gave him as a gift. Because he's an honorable person, very well known, very well respected. And by the way, he had two sons who were great scholars, Muhammad and Nafi'. طيب. وكان من well-known scholars in lineage, rahimahullah ta'ala. Anyway, Jubair ibn Mut'im, he was married to a woman. We're not going to go into the details. Like, he died 95 Hijri, rahimahullah ta'ala. 59, sorry, 59 Hijri. طيب. Let's go back to the hadith. قال لا يدخل الجنة قاطع. This cut ties with relatives and kinship will not enter Jannah. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said قاطع, one who cut. قاطع من القطع والهجران وهو ضد الوصل. So قاطع is cutting, is the opposite of connecting. So the person who cut ties, who's not connected to his relatives, not connected with his kinship. Okay? Anyone cut ties with friends? No, with kinship. So you cannot make a general specifically for the kinship, specifically for your relatives. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, will not enter Jannah. What that means, will not enter Jannah? Yani will not enter Jannah right away. Will not enter Jannah among the early people. Will not enter Jannah until this person will be asked about this. Will not enter Jannah until the person is punished for this. That's what will not enter Jannah means. Anytime you say, Nabi لا يدخل الجنة, لا يدخل الجنة, will not enter Jannah, it doesn't mean that this person will never enter Jannah, any kafir. No, because this is sin. It means, or it is not even, it could be something that highly disliked, but it will delay entering his Jannah, him entering Jannah. Might delay the person from entering Jannah. It's like the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about the person who comes late to Salah purposely, in Salat al-Jumu'ah especially. قال ما زال أناس يتأخرون عن الجمع حتى يؤخرهم الله. They purposely come late to Jumu'ah until Allah delay them. What that means? Delay their entrance of Jannah. So they will not enter Jannah right away. Allah will delay them as a punishment for them delaying coming to the masjid. Even coming early to the masjid for Jumu'ah is not wajib. It's just recommended. Anyway, what we learn from this hadith? Number one, this hadith is very clear on the severity of cutting ties with your relatives. That's a very severe sin. It's actually a major sin in Islam. Is to cut ties with your relatives. You disconnect yourself from them completely. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that this is the quality of the disbeliever. The quality of the believer, that they always care to be connected, to keep that, ties, and to keep that relationship with the family. The disbelievers are the ones who don't care about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran in Surah Muhammad, verse 22, فَهَلْ عَسَيْتُمْ إِن تَوَلَّيْتُمْ أَن تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَتُقَطِّعُوا أَرْحَامَكُمْ أُولَئِكَ الَّذِينَ لَعَنَهُمُ اللَّهُ فَأَصَمَّهُمْ وَأَعْمَى أَبْصَارَهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, talking to the kuffar, you think that you turn away and spread corruption on earth and cut ties with relatives. Those people who do such things, the one that Allah cursed, and Allah will make them deaf and blind. They will never see the signs. They will never see the reminders. They will never hear the reminders. They listen to it's like noise for them. They don't understand because their heart's not there. That's the result of what? The result of two things: spreading corruption and cutting ties. And some ulama said, actually cutting ties, that what lead to spreading the corruption. So it's not two things, it's just one thing, which is cutting ties with relatives and friends and family members. قال علي بن الحسين لولده, Ali ibn Hussein said to his son, my son, don't ever be a friend. لا تصاحب أبدا قاطع رحم. Don't be ever a friend with someone who basically cut ties with his relatives. Why? قال إني وجدته ملعونا في القرآن في 3 مواضع. I found that Allah cursed such person 3 times in the Quran. 3 times in the Quran. So, also, those who cut ties with relatives and family members, Allah described them as what? Losers. Fasiqs. Because it's a major sin. وَمَا يُضِلُّ بِهِ إِلَّا الْفَاسِقِينَ. Only misguided fasiq. Fasiq is the one who commit major sins. Why they are like that? Why they are fasiq? Why they are giving that title, which is a very bad title? الَّذِينَ يَنْقُضُونَ عَهْدَ اللَّهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مِيثَاقِهِ وَيَقْطَعُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَنْ يُوصَلَ وَيُفْسِدُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ أُولَئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. The one who basically will undo the promises and will break the promises that they made to Allah. And they will cut ties. The ties which Allah ordered us to maintain, which is the relatives and family members. And they spread corruption on earth. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in this hadith in Sunan Abu Dawud, and it's authentic hadith, قال ما من ذنب, there is no sin deserve a hastened punishment, an immediate punishment a person can do. There's no sin you can commit that more deserving for an immediate punishment. يعجل الله لصاحبه العقوبة في الدنيا, in this life, مع ما يدخره في الآخرة, plus the hereafter's punishment. من البغي وقطيعة الرحم. The 2 sins that deserve that the most: transgression against others and cutting ties with relatives. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, number 4. So we kind of wake up a little bit. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, في hadith Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, and this is Musnad Ahmad and it's also authentic, قال إن أعمال بني آدم تعرض على الله عشية كل خميس ليلة الجمعة. all the mankind's deeds, good deeds, will be presented before Allah every Thursday, which is the night before Friday. Let's say if today Thursday, in the night, it will be presented before Allah. The angel said, Ya Allah, this your servant did all these great deeds. So either Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell the angel, confirm it and keep it in the record. So I accept it and keep it in the record until the day of judgment. Or Allah might reject it. Then, in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam فَلَا يُقْبَلُ عَمَلُ قَاطِعِ رَحِيمٍ. Allah will not look at the deeds of someone who cutting ties with relatives. That's scary. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, الرحم معلقة بالعرش تقول من وصلني وصله الله ومن قطعني قطعه الله. في الحديث الصحيح أيضا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في الصحيحين وفي الصحيحين أيضا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ألا يكفيك أن أصل من وصلك يعني الرحم وأقطع من قطعك. In the hadith al-Bukhari Muslim, Allah said, I will be connected, Allahu Akbar, Himself, the Almighty Allah. He will be connected with a tie towards those or with those who are connected or those who maintain ties with their kinship. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will maintain a tie with those who maintain ties with their relatives and family members. And I will cut them off, those who cut off their ties with their relatives. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في حديث عبد الله بن أبي أوفى في البخاري في الأدب المفرد, in the hadith reported by al-Bukhari in الأدب المفرد, not in the Sahih, but it's authentic. إن الرحمة لا تنزل على قوم فيهم قاطع رحم. Allah's mercy, يعني the infinite mercy that forgive all sins, will not be given to a group of people, among them قاطع الرحم, a person who cut ties with relatives. Like you might say, why the people will be affected by this person? صح? Why people will not receive the mercy of Allah? Just because one of them, he cutting ties. Al-ulama rahimahullah said, the mercy here, the mercy could be the rain. Yani the rain will not be given to people who cut ties with relatives. That's one interpretation. Better than that, and basically they have evidence to say that. They said, in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he was very moved by the drought that affected Mecca, and they were not finding any rain, and they were in a very bad shape because of the lack of rain. Because they cut ties with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and their family, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them in drought, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made istighfar for them, and He allowed Umar and Asma to be connected with their families, and some ulama said that was the reason for that drought to go away actually. Anyway, regardless, At-Tibi rahimahullah said another interpretation was interesting. He said Allah will not give His mercy to such group because the group helping that person to cut tie with his family, or they are silent, they didn't speak out, they never told the person, hey, you have to reach out, you just friend, and they never talk, they never advise. And I can tell you this can happen where? Inside the house, of brothers, family members, and inside your house, your wife, for example, cut tie with her mother. I don't want to talk to my mother. I don't want to talk to my sister. I don't want to talk to my brother. And you as a husband, or vice versa, approve that and don't ever talk about and encourage her to do that. That's wrong. All of them are a partner in this. You have at least to speak up and to give the advice. So, to basically just go over it one more time. Allah's mercy will not be given to a group, among them a person who cut ties with relative. will not enter Jannah, someone who cut ties with relatives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I will be connected to those who are connected to the relatives, and I will cut off those who cut off their relatives. Every Thursday night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He's received the deeds of the people, He will not look at the deeds of the person who cut ties with relatives. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, there is nothing deserve a hasted and immediate punishment in this dunya, plus the punishment in the akhirah, like cutting ties with relatives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cursed the person who cut ties with his relatives. It is the one who cut ties with relatives, Allah described them as khasirun, fasiqun في Quran. That's serious, isn't it? It's a serious issue. And sometimes we take it so lightly. نحن أحيانا ما نعرف من أين نؤتى. Sometimes we did not realize where is the hole in our life. Sometimes you have a big problem in your life and you don't even know about it. It's like, a'udhu billah, you are building cholesterol in your blood stream and it's keep blocking your bloodstream, or you have a tumor that is growing and you see yourself, I'm fine, I can run and I'm nothing wrong with me. You don't know where you are being attacked from. If all this happened to the person who cut ties with relatives, what do you expect? So when the person look at his life and says, what's going on? Nothing wrong. I'm perfect. Because you're not paying attention to these things. What is ar-rahim that this ahadith referring to? What's kinship? What I mean by relatives? What this hadith referring to? It's all your relatives from your mother's sides and your father's sides. Going up, down, or the sides. What that means. Father, going up. Grandfather, great-grandfather, and going up. Going down. Your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. Okay? Going to the sides. Uncles, aunts, maternal or paternal. Okay? Sisters, brothers, then their fathers, their up and down. Your children, your cousin, and all this, that's all your relatives. As long as you know of them, fine. Because somebody that day come and think, he said, Shaykh, if I calculated all my, the very, very far cousins, I might end up cousins with Dick Cheney. Okay, or cousin with Sisi, or cousin with, Imran Khan, whatever. We're not talking about people like you don't know. We're talking about people you can identify. As my cousins, these my aunts, this is my aunt, my uncles, my maternal uncles, sons, and so forth. It doesn't matter if they are mahram or non-mahram. Okay? And that's an opinion for the Hanafi, the famous opinion among the Maliki. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah said that, and that was understood from the Shafi'iyya rahimahullah ta'ala when they said, any relatives, regardless if that person mahram or not. They inherit you or they don't inherit you. It doesn't matter. As Ibn Hajar rahimahullah said. And that's the choice of Shaykh ibn Baz rahimahullah ta'ala. He said that any relative from your father's side or your mother's side, they are the one that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلَى بِبَعْضٍ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. That the relatives have more rights over you than anyone else. Okay. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to a man, when he asked him, Ya Rasulullah, which one among my relatives deserve to care for the most? قال من أولى الناس بالبر. Who's the one that I should care for the most? What the Prophet said? Anybody remember? أمك. Then who? قال ثم من؟ قال أمك. 2 times. قال ثم من؟ قال أمك. third time. قال ثم من? Then who? He said, your father. Your father. Then what he said after that? That's my point. Anybody knows? قال ثم الأقرب فالأقرب. He said, then the closest one to you. So your grandfather, closer to you than your uncle. Your uncle, closer to you than your cousin. Your first cousin, closer to you than your second cousin. Your children, closer to you than your what? That your cousins or uncles and so forth. The closest to you are the one who deserve to give them the attention and to be connected to them more than any others. Some ulama rahimahullah, and that's some of the Hanafi said that, and some Malikiya, and one of the Hanabila, Abu Khattab said that. He said, the only one that you should maintain relationship with are the one who consider mahram. You are mahram. What's mahram means? You're not allowed to marry forever. Like what? Your sisters, your uncle, your aunts, okay? From maternal or paternal side, your daughter, granddaughter, and so forth. قالوا هذا بس المحارم. They said because if you open the door, that means you have to keep connection with all human beings because all humans are connected. But that's not true. Nobody said that. We talk about people that you can identify as cousins by the lineage. طيب. Some ulama said no, and that's the position of Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, and one narration among the Hanabila said no. The relatives that you must keep relationship with are the one who inherits you. Anyone that is capable of inheritance from you, it means that's someone that you can basically, you have to keep relationship with, the inheritors. Or he possibly or she possibly can inherit from you. So that means sisters, brothers, children, parents, grandparents, grandchildren, wife, and so that will not include cousins, for example. So cousins you don't need to maintain, according to their opinion. But the first opinion is the opinion of the majority of the fuqaha and the scholars, and makes the most perfect sense because that's what linguistically Silatul Rahim is. The kinship and the relatives. But as you understand, the level of maintaining the relationship differs from the closest one to you to the farther ones from you. So according to your ability, Allah not asking you to do something beyond your ability. It's not in my ability to contact some cousin that I don't know where they are. Okay? It's not my ability to go visit my cousins who are in different sects, especially if you are Palestinians. Okay? Your cousins all over the world. And lately, may Allah subhanahu make it easy to them, the Syrian as well. You might find your family all over the world. And nobody will say that's haram if you don't go visit them. You know, my income is limited. I can't go see my mom all the time. I can't be with her all the time. Otherwise, I would love to. So, the ulama said this all according to your ability. But what is not acceptable is to cut them off completely. You know what? This cousin is out of it. This brother is out. No, but you know what? I'm going to limit. For example, there are some brothers, the more I come closer to them, the more they harm me. Okay, I kept helping you 1, 2, but you keep harming me. You keep, causing problem to me. In this case, you reduce the amount of interaction. So instead of, for example, visiting, it might be a phone call, it might be a message. How is he doing? Instead of supporting, you know what? I have a cousin who uses drugs, who does things like illegal or bad things, gamble. you know what, I'm not going to give you money. This type of support you're not going to get from me. But if you get sick, I'll get you medicine. I'll take you to hospital. Because if it depends, this is according to what is beneficial. Otherwise, family will take advantage of other family members. You know, wallah, mashallah, Shaykh Waleed works and makes money and he lives in America. Then all those who live in Egypt, you know, just waiting for you to pay for them. That's not correct. That's not right. I will just give them a phone call. I will make sure that they're a friend of my Facebook. You know? Also, this issue of connecting to them, Shaykh ibn rahimahullah said, it's different from one generation to another, from one time to another. So today, it's a very common in WhatsApp, we keep in contact. Maybe a little bit ago, it was phone calls. Before that, it was a physical meeting because people live around each other. But you should maintain that. You know, my brother, alhamdulillah, he's happy if we contact each other once a month or once, you know, every 3 months or 6 months. You know what? He knows that I'm studying and I'm busy. As long as it's something according to what they understand with each other, it's acceptable. What consider cutting ties is completely you raise the person from your, you know, from your lust. He's out of the lust. That's not allowed. You never pray for them, you never make dua for them, you never cared about them when they're sick, when they die, when you never care for them. That's not right. No matter how good or bad they are, if they are Muslim or not Muslims. Only if they are righteous and they are Muslim, we give them extra connection. But still, even if they're not Muslims, still even if they are bad, there is still connection. I know someone, and he passed away, rahimahullah. I had a long conversation with him. He had a son from previous marriage, and he's not Muslim. And he completely cut him off. You know, this like, he lives in this like, you know, when we're growing up, like when we're kids, we hear people always quoting like some of these Egyptian movies and stuff like that. Hey, أحرمك بالميراث وكلام الأفلام هذا. You know, you're not gonna take anything from my inheritance. You're out. You're not my son. I don't want to talk to you. Don't talk to me. Just out. Who said that this is allowed in Islam? You just heard what Allah and His Messenger said. This is akhlaq al-kuffar. This is how the kuffar function. We have no, in Islam, we don't have something called, you're not my son, I don't know you, don't know me. Never been part of Islamic history, Islamic culture, or Islamic teaching at all. No matter how this person is bad. He's still my son, she's still my daughter. There is rights. This is my father, this is my mother. When we talk about Salatul Rahim, so we remember the custom and culture play a role into defining how often, what's the method. Also, we have to understand that relatives are levels. You cannot compare your mother's right, your father's right, to, for example, your cousins. Okay? And Ibn Abdin al-Hanafi rahimahullah said, Salatul Rahim could be with salam, greeting, gift, helping, spending time with them. Okay? You talk to them. You being nice and gentle to them. And if they are far from you, you write letter for them. He lived a long time ago, rahimahullah. And if you can go to visit them in their village or their city, it will be even better. But it doesn't matter what, basically, how. In modern days today, which is, I have to admit that it is not something easy to be connected to your relatives, especially in Western culture. In Western culture, family are the nuclear family. That's the concept in American culture, which is my wife, my kids, my parents. Even brothers and sisters, like, yeah, I mean, somehow, but are not like priority. It's my wife, my kids, or my parents. That's the culture in the West. There's no cousins or or uncles, paternal uncles. This is not like in the picture. Doesn't take priority. It's not something even we are used to. Once I went to one of the Islamic schools, and I asked the kids in Islamic schools, I volunteered, and I asked the kids in Islamic schools, what's your grandfather's name? You know what? You try it here in the masjid. You try it with the kids. When you see a kid who 9 years old, 10 years old, ask him, what's your grandparents' name? My experience, 90% of them don't know. 90% of them don't know their grandparents' names. Do you know nothing about your grandmother or grandmother? That's such a shame. They know nothing about their uncles, even their names. That's the least amount of connection. How you want your kids to be blessed? So that's why the first step, how to keep that connection and maintain Salat al-Rahim in our life today. Number one, make sure that you teach your children and you talk to your children about your relatives. They're not going to figure that on their own. We have to tell them. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من الحديث at-Tirmidhi, it is sound, تعلموا من أنسابكم ما تصلون به أرحامكم. Learn from your family trees and your lineage what you can maintain the ties with family. Especially if you married multiple times and you have children from multiple wives over the time, because you cannot lose relationship. She's in another stage, another country, and so forth. How can you make your kids know about your family members? Okay? How can you make your kids know about your family members? Number one, I recommend that what you do, put a list of their emails. If they have phone numbers or WhatsApp, you put it, okay, their cell phones. If they have Facebook, okay, one of these social media. Put the list of all your cousins, your uncles, if they have, and make sure that you pass it to your children. By the way, this is, if you ever want to know your uncles, or you can see him in Facebook, you can see him in Instagram, if they are your cousins and so forth. 2, one of the good activity that I would recommend, that you do a family tree as an art project at home. In the weekend, let's say this weekend, say, hey, me and my kids, we're going to draw the family tree. Yeah, we are here, so the first branch is your uncle Ahmed. So Ahmed, who's his wife? Khadra. Then who is, his kids, whatever names. Then they write it and they put it in the leaves. And they draw that family tree. So they will know at least who their family are. If you can organize a yearly or bi-yearly a meeting for the family, at least the one nearby, every 2 years or 3 years. And by the way, I know of at least 2 or 3 families, non-Muslim family, who have, mashallah, big family. Every year they gather one, or every 5 years they gather one time. They come from different states. So this is something maybe, you know what, it's worth the money, it's worth the barakah that comes from it. One of the things that I found was very interesting, I found people that they have a family tree online. They're savvy enough to put it online, a family tree, and people add to it. Because sometimes, I don't know, my cousins, how many kids he has. So he just spread the word, then it became a website based, okay? And people actually start adding their information to it. And I'm not sure, but I heard, I didn't get a chance to look, but I heard from one of my friends in Riyadh that he said even there is an app for that, where people can download in the app and they can add the information. And whoever thought about this app is a genius, because he really helped people to maintain rahim. And if it's not app, if it's this a rumor not true, this is an invitation for any developer to take that project on. Also, one of the things is good, every year, ya akhi, let's say in Eid al-Adha, let's put it as a habit, with the whole family, one from the family member volunteers. Let's say Abu Adam will volunteers among Baqdun's family. He will say, you know what, everyone at Eid al-Adha, I will make a small report about our family. MashaAllah, you know what, Adam graduated this. You know, MashaAllah, Asma got married. You know, this got the children. So the whole entire family, they feed into it, and maybe every year there is kind of a small report about what's new in the family. All the way to do it, WhatsApp group. One of the way to do it is to, have basically simple one like phone calls and be friend in social media. So these are some ways to keep you at least to, because the first point is in Silat al-Rahim is to know them. That's the minimum, bare minimum, to know who all your relatives are. Number 2 is to try to get connected with them. Phone calls, messages, whatever possible way. So there is a connection, a communication. That's number 2. Number 3, visitation if you can. Okay? At least you know how they look like. If it's not physical, at least FaceTime. Alhamdulillah, technology today makes it very easy for us to a certain extent. And if you can, especially parents, visiting them, bringing them over to visit, and so forth. And I want you to know something. I know it's expensive. I have 3, 4 kids, and you go all the way to, let's say, to Palestine or to Emirates or to Egypt or to Syria to visit your family. I know it's not easy. I know it's not cheap. But wallahi, this is one of the best way to spend your money, or Pakistan or Bangladesh. But that's one of the best way to invest your money, is to keep that connection. Also, one of the things is to make dua for them. You do need to remember all of them, but at least, ya akhi, in your dua, ask yourself, when was the last time that you said, oh Allah, I ask you to bless them, to forgive all my family, all my relatives. اغفر لذوي رحمي جميعا يا رب. بارك لهم وأصلح ذرياتهم. Make dua for them the least. If you can specify some of them by names, you make dua for all of them. If you know that they are in trouble, you reach out. Sick, dead, you basically help their family who are left behind and so forth. In debt, you can help with that. Maybe some people need not financial aid. Maybe they need just nasiha, advice. My cousin, my son, my nephew is in bad shape. He's just wasting his life. Maybe I need to reach out and give him advice and be mentor to him or to her. Talk to them. Hey, come and volunteer in my, shadow me in my work. I'm going to teach you a skill in life. You care for them. Also to connect to them in the happy occasions. Marriages, a newborn, Eid, Ramadan, Hajj, they bought a new home, something happened good to them, you there to connect with them. One of that, also the area of Salatul Rahim, gifts. You give them gifts, especially in the Habi occasion. One of the area which is financial support, if you can. But again, I'm saying this because I see this a lot. Many times that people take advantage of you and just start sucking you. If it doesn't harm you, alhamdulillah. But sometimes you harm them. Because the last thing that you want somebody to just open his mouth and you keep feeding. You want people to be independent. I always say there is a difference between I help you and I adopt you. And my son, I'm obligated to spend money on him. My daughter, I have to support her. My son, I have to support him. Yeah, that's my kid. I adopted a kid, I have to take care of it. But mashallah, رجل طول في عرض, you're like, like bigger than me and stronger than me, and my brother, well, my thing, I help you, but it doesn't mean I adopt you. It doesn't mean I pay your salary every month just because you're my cousin or this. I will help you for a year and two, if this will, when I see that you are going to somewhere to build yourself. You see the difference between the two? النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said وأفضل الصدقة على ذي الرحم الكاشح. يعني إيش الكاشح؟ anybody knows? قال وأفضل الصدقة, the best form of صدقة is to the relatives who is كاشح. مش كاشح, كاشح. كاشح. Does it sound like a good words or bad words? يعني something good quality or bad quality? Bad quality. الكاشح يعني المضمر للعداوة. The one who wants to harm you, who doesn't like you, who will backbite you. Can you imagine the best sadaqah when you give it to relatives to you, even though this person is bad to you? Can anybody tell me why? Because it might soften his heart and change him, so that evilness will go away. Very good. What else? That means you only do it for Allah. That means you are absolutely sincere because your soul, your nafs telling you don't do it. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm not doing it for my ego. I'm not doing it because he kiss up to me and he praise me and he tell me this and he tell me that. I'm not doing this because he's going to marry me his daughter one day. I'm not doing this because he's going to do this to me. No. I'm only doing it. I have every reason, every worldly, personal reason to cut you off. There's only one thing keep me connected to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's qimmat al-ikhlas. So, also, one of the things that I will suggest, and I found it very, very helpful, and I'm giving you from practical point that I've seen. You as a family come together, that's one of the Silat al-Rahim, and it's a beautiful way of Silat al-Rahim. We always say about Silat al-Rahim, giving money. Sometimes you need to encourage them actually to give money. Is to encourage them to be part of a project, a charity. Hey, let's build masjid in the name of our family. Let's do water well in the name of our family. Let's sponsor a class, sponsor a book. Let's sponsor a student of knowledge. And we sponsor that. Let's, build a masjid together. Also, I found something very interesting. I found some family member, what they do, like cousins and stuff like that, they have every year, they do competition among their kids, and Islamic competition. And they said anyone from the family will memorize the Quran, memorize just from the Quran, the whole family will come together and we'll give them like $5,000, $10,000 if he finished the Quran. They encourage one another to be good and better Muslims. You know, we're going to agree. Anybody graduate from high school with like, you know, high grade, 3.9, like excellency, or like in college, we as a family, we support. So when you encourage your family to be part of something good, that's part of Salatul Rahim. I know, for example, family members, they have a zakat, sunduq al-zakat. So every one of them put the zakat in that box, basically in that account. Then they use that money to support people. One of the way of Salatul Rahim, Islah That al-Bayn. If you know among your relatives problems, two of my cousins, they don't talk to each other. Two of my uncles, they don't talk to each other. I reach out and try to reconciliate between them. And I use the people of wisdom, people of knowledge, you know, people of religion. Sometimes even the family will make a committee to solve the problem. You guys don't know how common this is, that brothers, they don't talk to each other anymore. It's because business, because money. They just don't talk to each other. One of the ulama once, somebody came to him and he said, we're best friends and we love each other for the sake of Allah. Let's take this to the next level. He said, what? He said, let's start business together. He said, son, I will not trade the brotherhood and the love and to be partners. No, I see myself, I'm not that person who will feel good to be partner. Marra Muhammad Sa'ad told me a word of wisdom I will never forget, and it's very true. He said, Waleed, in my life I learned that very, very few people who can be a partner in a business. And anyone in the business, Samir also, he runs a business, I don't know about Ta'a, but you know, partner is very hard to have a good partner. It's always better to be by yourself. There is a joke. They said there is this guy, his name is Saeed, has a partner, two partners, Saad and Eid. All of them Eid. So Saeed, Saad, and what? Eid. Get confused. And he want to brand himself Saeed. He was so angry. Why all these like people mix between us? Then he put like pressure, so Eid quit. It used to be like this. This is the company of Saeed and Saad and Eid. So he was so happy. He said, this is the company of Saeed and his partner Eid. Saad. Instead of his partners Saad and Eid, now he changed it. He said, this is Saeed's company with his partner Saad. But still he wanted himself. So he put pressure until he kicked what? Saad out. So he changed the sign and he said, this is Saeed's company la sharika lah. With no partner. So people like, when it comes to business, they said it's better to have your own business. You have no sharik with you. But anyway, so let's say there is a problem over money, over a dispute, and also, you know what? What do you think the second thing that causes problem in families after business? Marriage, as-salamu alaykum. Not marriage, it's a problem that comes after marriage. It's divorce. I divorced my cousin. My uncle is angry. You know, abused my sister. And this is my cousin. So it's became problem. That's number two, or maybe even more, can be number one. When it comes to cut ties, is the issue of marriages. That's why one of the wisdom of why we don't marry from relatives. So if anything goes wrong, we don't lose this relationship. Just keep it outside the family. Okay? So whenever we see problem like this, part of Silatul Rahim is to reach out, try to reconciliate. Also, Part of Silat al-Rahim is to advise them, to give them nasiha. If you see them doing something wrong, to speak up, say that's haram, that's not correct, that's waste, that's not wise, that's injustice. You can't treat your son this way. You can't talk to your wife like that. You can't abuse your wife. You can't be doing this to your kids. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم انصر أخاك ظالما أو مظلوما. You support your brother if he's transgressor or transgressed against. He said, Ya Rasulullah, being abused, I understand, but how can I support him when he's transgressing? When he is the abuser, he said, by stopping him from abusing others. طيب? That's why you see in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he started with his family. He said, Ya bani Murrah, Ya bani Abdi Shams, Ya bani Ka'b ibn Lu'ay, Ya bani Abdi Manaf. This all his relatives. أنقذوا أنفسكم من النار. Save yourself from hellfire. Ya bani Abdul Muttalib, his immediate family. أنقذوا أنفسكم من النار. Then the circle goes smaller. يا فاطمة أنقذي نفسك من النار فإني لا أملك لك من الله شيئا غير أن لكم رحما سأبلها ببلالها. يا فاطمة, protect yourself from hellfire. Number 12, I will to wrap it up quickly. The issue of one of Silat al-Rahim is to what? Is to maintain the rights for every Muslim. You remember the 6 rights? Salam is to visit the sick, to follow the janazah, to accept the invitation, to say Yarhamukallah. So basically, part of Silat al-Rahim is to maintain the general duties that upon us as Muslims toward one another, to maintain these. And my final point for today, what's the time now? How long we've been talking? Oh, khalas. So I think I give you more details. That's how can we maintain Salat al-Rahim. I actually, next class, inshallah ta'ala, I have about 8 or also the coming points are very good, important. I identify the most common 10 reasons why people cut ties with each other as family. So I explained to you how to maintain the tie in 12 points. And now, next class, I will talk about the 10 most common reasons for why people cut ties with the relatives. Then we're going to talk about, so we talk about Qati al-Rahim, that people in cutting ties with relatives are in different levels, okay? So you have 3 different levels that we're going to talk about them. Then inshallah we'll take the next hadith, which is hadith al-Mughirah ibn Shu'bah radiyallahu anhu. إن الله حرم عليكم عقوق الأمهات وأدى البنات ومنعان وهات وكري له قيل وقال وكثرة السؤال وإضاعة المال. With this we'll come to the end of our talk today.